A man once lost a major opportunity in his life, not because he was unqualified, not because he lacked intelligence, but because in a single moment, when he was expected to speak, he adjusted his posture, cleared his throat, and chose silence. Years later, when he replayed that moment, what haunted him was not failure, but the sentence that never left his mouth. And if you pay attention closely, you will realize something uncomfortable. Most people are not living below their potential because they lack ability. They are living below their potential because their best thoughts never survive the journey from their mind to their voice. You've been diagnosing this wrong your entire life. You told yourself you're not good at speaking. You blamed your vocabulary, your fluency, your confidence, your delivery. But none of those are the real problem. Because if they were, you wouldn't be able to explain things perfectly in your head. You wouldn't rehearse conversations mentally and come up with clear, structured, even impressive responses. You wouldn't walk away from conversations thinking, "I should have said that." That sentence alone proves something most people miss. Your issue is not creation of thought. It's execution under observation. And that changes everything. Because the moment another human being is present, your brain is no longer focused on expressing ideas. It is focused on managing perception. It begins running a parallel system in the background. How am I being seen right now? How is my tone landing? Did that sound intelligent enough? What if they misunderstand me? And suddenly, speaking is no longer a simple act. It becomes a high-risk performance. This is where most advice completely fails you. People tell you to just be confident or practice speaking more, but they never explain the actual mechanism behind what's happening inside you. So let's break it down in a way you've probably never heard before. There are two versions of you: the thinking self and the performing self. Your thinking self is sharp, calm, and articulate. It operates in private, without pressure, without judgment. But your performing self? It operates under surveillance. The moment you feel watched, evaluated, or judged, your brain reallocates resources. Instead of focusing on clarity, it prioritizes self-protection. This is why your sentences become shorter, less precise, sometimes even broken. Not because you forgot how to speak, but because your brain is trying to minimize risk. Here's the part that most people never realize. Fear of looking stupid is not actually about intelligence. It's about social survival. From an evolutionary perspective, being perceived as incompetent or foolish in a group had consequences. It could lower your status, reduce trust, or isolate you from the group. And your brain still carries that ancient wiring. So, when you hesitate to speak, you are not being irrational. You are responding to a deeply embedded survival system. But here's the problem. That system is outdated. Because in today's world, the cost of silence is far greater than the cost of imperfection. Think about this carefully. Every time you choose not to speak, you are making a trade. You are trading visibility for temporary comfort. You are trading influence for short-term safety. You are trading growth for emotional protection. And over time, these small trades compound into a life where you are consistently overlooked, not because you lack value, but because your value is not visible. Now here's where it gets even more interesting. Your fear is not just about saying something wrong. It's about losing control of how you are perceived. Because once words leave your mouth, they are no longer yours. They are interpreted, judged, sometimes misunderstood. And that loss of control is what makes speaking feel dangerous. So instead of risking misinterpretation, you default to silence, which feels safe, but slowly erodes your ability to engage with the world. Let's shift your perspective in a way that most people never do. You don't need to become a better speaker. You need to become someone who is comfortable being misinterpreted temporarily, because every powerful communicator you admire has been misunderstood hundreds of times. But they kept speaking anyway. They understood something you don't yet fully accept. Clarity is not achieved before speaking. It is achieved through speaking. This means your current strategy is backwards. You are waiting to feel ready before you speak. But readiness is the result of repetition, not the prerequisite. You are trying to eliminate mistakes before they happen. But mistakes are the mechanism through which refinement happens. So you stay stuck in preparation, while others move forward through imperfection. Here's a concept that will change how you see this completely. Your brain overestimates the impact of your mistakes and underestimates the invisibility of your silence. When you imagine saying something wrong, you picture a moment that feels amplified, almost permanent. But in reality, most people forget what you said within minutes. However, when you stay silent, there is no moment, no presence, no memory of you at all. And that absence, that is far more damaging over time. Now understand this clearly. The goal is not to eliminate fear. That will never happen. The goal is to reduce the authority that fear has over your actions. Because right now, fear is not just present. It is in charge. It decides when you speak. It decides when you stay silent. It filters your thoughts before they ever reach the outside world. And until that changes, your communication will never reflect your true intelligence. So, what actually works? Not motivation, not affirmations, not telling yourself, "I'm confident." What works is controlled exposure to social risk. You deliberately put yourself in situations where you speak, while accepting that it will not be perfect. And more importantly, you don't try to correct yourself mid-sentence, because constant self-correction reinforces the belief that mistakes are unacceptable. Instead, you let the sentence land as it is, complete, imperfect, real. Over time, something subtle but powerful begins to happen. Your brain starts updating its internal model. It realizes, "I spoke, and nothing catastrophic happened." Again, and again, and again. And gradually, the perceived risk decreases. Not because the fear disappears, but because your evidence contradicts it. And this is where the real transformation begins. You stop trying to sound impressive, and you start focusing on being understood. You stop optimizing for perfection, and you start optimizing for clarity. You stop protecting your image, and you start expressing your thoughts. Because at the highest level, communication is not about performance. It's about transfer. The transfer of ideas from your mind into someone else's understanding. And that transfer does not require perfection. It requires presence. So the next time you feel that hesitation, that familiar tightening in your chest, that moment where your brain says, "Stay quiet," recognize it for what it is, not a sign that you are incapable, but a signal that you are about to step outside your conditioned behavior. And in that moment, you have a choice. You can protect your image, or you can expand your identity. Because every time you speak despite that fear, you are not just communicating. You are rewriting the relationship you have with your own voice. And once that relationship changes, everything else follows. Your confidence, your presence, your opportunities, your influence. You were never bad at speaking. You were trained slowly, quietly, repeatedly, to avoid the risk of being seen imperfectly. But the moment you stop treating imperfection as a threat and start treating it as the cost of growth, your voice stops hiding. And when your voice stops hiding, your life stops shrinking.